On Tech News Today, President Obama weighs in on net neutrality, saying he's in favor of it. But where was his advocacy when he was nominating the FCC chairman? Plus, hang on to your breach fatigue. We've got 2 more massive attacks to report. And Apple finally lets Android switchers escape from iMessage jail. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, November 10th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. Now introducing Squarespace 7 with even better site management tools and other improvements. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. And by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster, easier, and cheaper. Post your job to 50-plus job boards with one click. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. Tech News Today is a show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and good morning to you, Anthony Nielsen.
Morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. It's a bit of the Mondays kind of a vibe up in here in Petaluma, but I think we're going to be okay because we have some really, really interesting news today. We also have a really, really interesting co-anchor, Lindsey Turrentine. Welcome to you, Lindsey.
Hello.
Now, you are the editor.
Hello from the...
You're in northern California, right?
I'm in almost as far north as you can go in California right now, Siskiyou County. If you haven't been here, you should come. It's very beautiful. I
haven't, and I should, and I definitely want to. Now, you've recently you've doubled your editor-in-chiefness, right? You're now co-editor-in-chief of the CNET print magazine.
That's right. We launched a magazine last week, which was very, very exciting and led to lots of people kind of going like, wait, what? CNET launched a magazine? But yes, we've been around for 20 years. We have this amazing web brand, and we decided that we wanted to add something on top of that. So we are doing a quarterly magazine, and it's been very well received. It's a really great publication. You should check it out. You can find it at everywhere, basically.
It is a great publication. I was very, very impressed with the initial run. I've edited many print magazine myself, and wasn't it you guys who pretty much drove the print magazines out of business back in the 90s? If I seem to recall, I think you guys were involved in that.
We may have had something to do with that, but it was inadvertent. We didn't do it on purpose. We just did what we do well.
All right.
And now we can kind of come back around and say, hey, we have some stories to tell in print.
Well, I believe in print, and the reason is that I already spend about 12 to 15 hours a day looking at screens, and whenever I want to read something, if I can get it on print, I'll read it on print because just my eyeballs need a break from the screens. But it is a great publication, and people should know that this isn't just rehashed content from the website. There's tons of original content, long-form journalism, and it's really nicely laid out. So I want to congratulate you guys for a really good launch. That was really nice.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun and really fun working with the staff on a different layout. Yeah, it's been great.
I'll bet. Well, let's jump into the news. President Obama issued an unusual statement this morning supporting net neutrality. He urged the FCC to reclassify consumer broadband service providers as common carriers. Let's take a look at his statement on video.
Ever since the internet was created, it's been organized around basic principles of openness, fairness, and freedom. There are no gatekeepers deciding which sites you get to access. There are no toll roads on the information superhighway. This set of principles, the idea of net neutrality, has unleashed the power of the internet and given innovators the chance to thrive. Abandoning these principles would threaten to end the internet as we know it. That's why I'm laying out a plan to keep the internet free and open. And that's why I'm urging the Federal Communications Commission to do everything they can to protect net neutrality for everyone. They should make it clear that whether you use a computer, phone, or tablet, internet providers have a legal obligation not to block or limit your access to a website. Cable companies can't decide which online stores you can shop at or which streaming services you can use. And they can't let any company pay for priority over its competitors. To put these protections in place, I'm asking the FCC to reclassify Internet service under Title II of a law known as the Telecommunications Act. In plain English, I'm asking them to recognize that for most Americans, the Internet has become an essential part of everyday communication and everyday life. The FCC is an independent agency, and ultimately this decision is theirs alone. But the public has already commented nearly 4 million times, asking the FCC to make sure that consumers, not the cable company, gets to decide which sites they use. Americans are making their voices heard and standing up for the principles that make the Internet a powerful force for change. As long as I'm president, that's what I'll be fighting for too.
The time to fight for net neutrality was when he appointed an industry lobbyist to head the FCC. Just my opinion. Jon Brodkin writes for Ars Technica and joins us now to talk about this issue. Welcome to you, Jon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
The president is asking the FCC. He made it very clear that the FCC is an independent agency. He does appoint or nominate the FCC chairman, but after that, it's independent. He seems to be leveraging public opinion to pressure his own appointee to support net neutrality. And if the overwhelming public comments period didn't do it, which clearly supported net neutrality, will this have any effect at all? I mean, after all, he's a lame duck president, and there's really nothing he can do to compel the FCC to support net neutrality, is there?
Well, not technically, but I think it'll have some effect. You've already seen the FCC move closer towards reclassification. Their latest proposal would sort of halfway reclassify internet service by calling the connections between ISPs and websites a common carrier service, whereas the connection between ISPs and consumers would not be. That was surprising in itself because the FCC's original plan back in May wouldn't have done any of that. But I think Obama coming out and saying he wants a full reclassification, I think that gives Wheeler some political cover to do this. But if you're cynical, you might also think that it's by Obama saying we should reclassify entirely, it would maybe let the FCC do something a little bit weaker and perhaps avoid a lawsuit because the ISPs will be so afraid that something worse could happen.
So Obama, he noted that net neutrality rules should apply to mobile data too, but then he also qualified that recognizing the special challenges that come with managing wireless networks should be part of that application of the rules. What are those challenges? What are the challenges that are specific to mobile data?
Well, a challenge is that spectrum is a scarcer resource for mobile than for consumer internet. I mean, you know, obviously there are data caps, which are mostly a profit play, but in very congested areas, the limits of mobile networks are real. But I think the main principle is that he doesn't want carriers to block things just because they don't want to serve it up, instead of, blocking for reasonable network management principles is something that's usually built into rules like this, and that'll probably be something that'll happen no matter what. But as long as they're not doing it to sort of prop up certain services over others, I think that's what he wants.
Now, of course, the internet service providers' stock prices took a dive this morning upon hearing this news because, of course, their ability to monetize is linked to a certain extent to their ability to control who can have access and charge extra money for people, different various companies and individuals to have access. Now, were you as confused as I was, Jon, about the Wheeler proposal that would classify the connection between the websites and the ISPs as a common carrier status, but not between the ISPs and consumers? That sounded backwards to me. Don't you want there to be financial incentives for the Netflixes of the world to basically pay their own way for the huge amount of bandwidth that they use and the performance of that bandwidth between themselves and the ISPs? But you don't, in my opinion, you don't want to nickel and dime consumers, especially in the semi-monopoly situation we have in a lot of markets in the United States. Was that designed as a kind of poison pill? I mean, the supporters of it said, what's great about this is it's so complicated and offensive that it will never see the light of day. It'll be tied up in the courts or whatever. But what was your opinion about Wheeler's proposal, what was it, a couple of weeks ago?
I thought it was sort of interesting because it would do what people have been arguing, that it could help the FCC prevent paid prioritization deals where websites would have to pay for faster access to consumers, but it would do it in a slightly different way than what most people were arguing. I didn't really find it confusing, except in that it's you have to define who is a web service or a provider versus who is a consumer, because everyone uploads, everyone downloads, and so do businesses. So you'd have to it would make it a little bit more complicated, but I didn't think it was completely bogus.
That seems like a situation in which small businesses might be particularly concerned, because they might feel like they would never get a chance to get a fair start if larger companies are paying for fast access already. Was that part of the concern? And
that's the whole point of this whole debate, that people have been wanting to ban paid prioritization over the past 6 months, but the whole debate is how to come up with a legal framework that will survive a court challenge.
So what do you think the industry's response to this particular set of proposals from Obama is? Is it good? Do people seem happy so far? I mean, it's only been a couple of hours, but what are you seeing out there?
Well, the internet service providers hate it already. AT&T has already threatened to sue because they don't want even a possibility that they could face the same kinds of rules that the traditional telephone system faces. So basically every ISP and industry consortium is against it. All of the consumer advocacy groups are for it. It's pretty clear that it's divided people down the middle.
And what did FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler think?
He said that the president's statement is an important contribution to the debate, and he said that this is a very complicated topic, and what they really want to do is make sure that they can create something that will stand up to court challenge. And as a result, it sounds like the final decision will be pushed until sometime early next year.
Interesting. So you think early next year? You don't think they're going to try to push it into the presidential campaign season?
Well, I hope it doesn't go till 2016. I don't know. When I said early this year, I don't really know. But originally they said end of this year, so I'm assuming they'll try to do early to mid next year, since they're already delaying it.
Jon Brodkin is at arstechnica.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at @JBrodkin. Thanks for joining us, Jon Brodkin. This is a very enlightening story that you wrote on Ars Technica, and I appreciate your coming on Tech News Today.
Thanks.
All right. In just a sec, we're going to hear about a couple more hack attacks. Boy, they just keep on coming, don't they? But first, I want to tell you about Squarespace. Speaking of high-performance websites, which we all love, and if you have a website, and you should have a website, you want to make it a high-performance website, and the easy way to do that is with Squarespace. And it's easier than ever because now Squarespace 7 has just been introduced, and it makes getting started with your unique web presence easier than ever. It has more all-in-one and simpler to navigate and operate in one seamless experience. Squarespace 7 allows you to live edit on one screen. It's so much fun to build and maintain a website with Squarespace 7. You have instant access to professional stock photography from Getty. This is like a really, really high quality stock photography outfit. You have instant branded email set up with Google Apps, and the Squarespace has designed category-specific templates that cater to the site requirements for industry groups. For example, the new Horizon template is laid out for bands, featuring tour dates, music player, and merch store. So if you're a musician and you want to have a website for your band, of course you have to. It's the only way you can sell music these days. Squarespace is the one and only place for you to do that. Even the developer platform is out of beta. What Squarespace is doing is they're giving you access to the developer platform that they use to build the site, and now you can use their powerful platform as well. And you can note that we've talked about their mobile platform for managing blogs, which used to be on iOS, iPhones and iPads. Now it's on Android as well. So if you're an Android head, you want to use their mobile device to run your blog because it's super easy and makes you very responsive with your management of your blog, which is an important thing if you are running a blog. So start a free 2-week trial, no credit card required, and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT because that'll get you 10% off and also show your support for Tech News Today, and we really appreciate that. And to begin using Squarespace 7, existing customers need to go to the Settings tab to activate all the wonderful new features. Again, that's the Settings tab if you're already a user. And we thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. And remember, as always, a better web awaits, and it starts with your new Squarespace website. Well, Lindsey, after hearing this next story, I don't think any of us will ever want to use hotel Wi-Fi again.
Yeah, this is kind of scary. A sophisticated spying operation dubbed Dark Hotel has targeted a number of high-level executives traveling abroad, and it does so using luxury hotel Wi-Fi. And this is according to the security firm Kaspersky Labs and the Wall Street Journal. The team of hackers that wait for executives to log into hotel Wi-Fi, then offer false software updates to install a backdoor to the computers, and then kind of just watch everything that happens from there on out. And the spying has apparently been going on for many years and has targeted travelers working in all kinds of areas: finance, tech, military. So pretty sophisticated operation. Lisa Fleisher from the Wall Street Journal is here to tell us a little bit more about it. Hello, Lisa.
How's it going, Lindsey?
Great, thanks for joining us. This operation seems to have targeted some pretty sophisticated people and travelers. And can you tell us how this group of criminals was able to trick executives into doing this?
Sure. So what we know is that apparently the attack was sort of masked in an update, a software update. So if you get those automatic updates for, whether it's Adobe or Google Toolbar or whatnot, that the executives might have just downloaded that thinking, okay, well, it's another automatic update, and that actually contains some malware in it. So that's how the initial infection took place, and then after that, there could have been further downloads.
First time I heard this story, first read your headline, I thought, oh boy, here's China who's basically targeting U.S. business people visiting Asia. But in fact, that is, we don't know, as far as I know, who's behind it. But the 90% of the victims come from Japan, Taiwan, China itself, Russia, and South Korea. And only a minority of the victims are American. And there are also victims in Ireland, Hong Kong, and Germany, among others. Do we have any sense of who's doing this? I mean, it's industrial espionage, which, is the China model, but they have a lot of imitators these days, don't they?
Right. And I'm not sure if the victims were actually Japanese, or if they were just in Japan when they were traveling.
I see.
So it could be American. But there's not a lot of good evidence from that Kaspersky Labs showed on who was behind the attacks. There were a couple of Korean characters that were in the source code, just in the code in some of the coding. So they maybe think perhaps they're Korean actors. But then again, they said, well, maybe it's a state-sponsored attack because it's pretty sophisticated, pretty targeted. But then again, there's a bit of a sort of spraying that they're doing in terms of like afterwards. There's a bit more, or there's some attacks that are less targeted. So it's a little bit unclear on who was behind this. But there were two really interesting things about this. One was that it's been happening for a long time. I mean, some of the earliest infections they saw were in 2009 and perhaps even before. But also that there were some very, very targeted ones. And apparently they would set up honeypots in the hotels. So if you're unfamiliar with that term, that means, sort of setting out a trap to try to get yourself infected. But they would not be infected. And what they assumed was that they were not looking for, they're looking for specific people. And so what they say apparently is that the attackers would know when the people were traveling, what dates they were checking into the hotel, when they were checking out. And once they were in, they sort of tried to figure out, okay, well, how high value is this target? And then they took it from there.
So this is all so terrifying. Like Mike said, it's pretty scary, and it would make all of us not want to use hotel Wi-Fi. Are there any specific steps that Kaspersky says or that you think people can take to protect themselves from this kind of attack? I mean, we're not all high-level executives at banks, but we do have sensitive information.
Sure, and it wasn't just banks. It was, it could have been sales, marketing people, vice presidents of some division. I think that generally the old rule applies, which is don't download anything. If you don't know where it's coming from, and even if you think you know where it's coming from, be cautious. And one thing that Kaspersky Lab pointed out, which I think, sophisticated business travelers probably will know how to do, and if not, their IT people can help them out, is just connect through a VPN and set that up so it connects securely, so that you're a bit more protected there. But again, just if you can hold off on that crucial update until you're back in your office, I think you should wait on that.
I'm curious about the fact that this is being reported as something that's happening in luxury hotels in Asia. Is this something that requires physical access within the hotel to the Wi-Fi system, or is this something that has been they've been infiltrated over the internet? And if that's the case, why not infiltrate hotels globally? Why go after just ones in Asia?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to how it happened in the first place. Kaspersky was saying that it's perhaps it's possible that they actually did. There's some sort of broader hack going on of these hotels' networks, and that's how they were able to access, various reservation systems. Perhaps. I mean, I don't think that they know that for sure. And who's to say, frankly, that this isn't happening at other hotels or other spots? I mean, we've basically seen anywhere where there's a connection, there's a potential for some sort of hacker, whether it's through a USB drive, like a little, flash drive, or through those airport plugins or those places where you can charge your phone. I mean, any way that you connect wherever you go is a potential for some sort of malware or infected device. And I think that, again, I guess we just have to practice safe internet as we, learned growing up as teenagers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great advice. Lisa Fleisher writes at WSJ.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Lisa Fleisher. Thanks for joining us, Lisa.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Hackers working for the Chinese government are suspected of breaching U.S. Postal Service computers and copying the data of more than 800,000 employees, according to an exclusive in the Washington Post. The FBI is investigating. A post office spokesman said the hackers don't care about identity theft or credit cards. The crooks made off with the names, birth dates, social security numbers, addresses, and other information on every single postal employee, including the person who brings the mail to your house. The victims were notified this morning. It's not clear what the motive is for the intrusion exactly, but some speculate that the Chinese government is building a vast database of all U.S. government employees that they can use to recruit for counterintelligence. Well, this, Lindsey, is the sort of the Chinese model. What they're really good at is they oftentimes don't do not just hacking, but like espionage in general, in a specifically targeted way. Yes, they do targeted espionage, but they also go after this 1,000 grains of rice technique that as they call it, where they just harvest as much information as they can, get it into a database that can later be queried through big data techniques to get whatever information they're looking for. And this looks like one of those. If they can get access to the personal information of U.S. government employees, even if they just work for the postal system, why not grab them and put them in the database? So it's pretty scary stuff.
It's pretty scary stuff. It also seems like, not to make too much light of it, but it seems like a great plot for a movie. I just imagine, right? Like your local mail carrier is suddenly carrying a webcam that she's not aware of, and this is all part of Chinese espionage. I mean, it's very interesting, and this is the advantage that China has, is that it has so much manpower to take all of this data and just spend time sifting through it and figure out what to do with it. And I think there are actually some pretty creative things you could do with this if you know where a mail carrier lives. And I would be pretty creeped out if I were one of those mail carriers, honestly.
I would be too. And there's also been some speculation that whoever's behind the hacks thinks that the U.S. postal system works the same way as the Chinese postal system. Chinese postal system has a lot more data on people, and the postal system itself is an instrument of the Chinese Communist Party and the government in general for tracking the whereabouts of citizens and keeping track of dissidents and that sort of thing. So they may think that that's a similar situation here in the United States. It's very different in the U.S. On the other hand, the United States, as we learned last week, takes a picture of every single letter that goes through. And if that somehow, that has not been hacked, as far as we know, that has not been compromised, but maybe the way to get to that information is through an employee. Like, the weakest link in any sort of security system is always the users. If they have access to every single user, maybe they can somehow get access to the image database that tracks every single letter. If they know everything that happens in terms of the mail flying around to and from the United States and within the United States, they would have an enormous trove of metadata similar to the metadata collected by the NSA and so on. But that's just pure speculation. What we do know is that they're suspected as being a Chinese government-backed hack, and every single postal employee has been compromised. Well, Lindsey, it looks like we've got some better mobile and wearable gaming in our near future. What's going on?
London-based Imagination Technologies has revealed new graphics cores, and the graphics cores are what you use to build the chips. So this is really at the very most basic level of your graphics experience. These chips are, the cores, I'm sorry, are aimed at providing the infrastructure for chips for wearables, smartphones, the Internet of Things, dashboard technology, and really any device that needs to render graphics more quickly. And this is according to VentureBeat. The Imagination says that the new cores offer 60% improvement in performance, which sounds great. I think it'll be interesting to see how all of this gets used, because so much of the industry, especially small screens, is in flux right now.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the most interesting thing for me personally in all of this is the fact that there have been two recent trends in mobile graphics, I guess you could say, and in virtual and augmented reality. The first trend is that virtual reality and augmented reality are merging, or have merged, to the point to where they're almost indistinguishable. The difference being that in virtual reality, the environment is virtual, and the subject matter, whether it's a game or fake people or CGI people or whatever, are also computer generated. Whereas in augmented reality, the environment is reality, and then you place things into that reality. Well, those are merging like crazy. You have leap motion added to Oculus Rift, which gives you a virtual reality, a sort of real-time virtual reality illustration of reality. So like, for example, your hands. And then you have augmented reality from Magic Leap and others who are doing incredible things where, it doesn't matter if it's real or fake or whatever. Google's doing some interesting research with mapping using smartphones. The second trend that's really interesting related to graphics is the fact that ever since Google Cardboard at Google I/O, now if you remember, Google Cardboard is an open source initiative to use a smartphone as the graphics engine and also the sound and use the sensors and everything for virtual or augmented reality. They're down to like under $10 now, where you can have this cardboard thing that creates goggles. You slip your phone in there, you put it up to your eyes, and you see some pretty compelling virtual reality. I think that's going to be way bigger than the big, expensive sort of thing with cables coming out that's going to be in your living room, simply because, like everything mobile, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be more accessible. And so imagine if your smartphone can be used for virtual or augmented reality, and then the powerful graphics that you're talking about here are built into those smartphones. It's going to be really, really compelling for gaming, for communication, for science, for all kinds of things. And so that is very, very exciting. We're going to need some really powerful graphics for the near future of smartphone-based augmented and virtual reality.
For sure, and they're all just set to support that. So the high end of this core series supports 512 cores. This is really for something like a gaming system, but imagine that kind of system. And the low end supports 16 or 32, which is, that's at the very highest end of what you get in smartphones right now. So imagine that, the low end of this kind of experience is one that's double the power that you're getting right now in really high-end handsets, which could be pretty compelling. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to those coming to smartphones and wearable devices very soon. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. Well, industry eggheads are calling on the Supreme Court to shoot down the idea of copyrightable application programming interfaces, or APIs. The Electronic Frontier Foundation today filed an amicus brief on behalf of 77 computer scientists asking the court to overturn an appellate court decision finding that APIs are copyrightable. The case stems from when, you remember long ago when Oracle sued Google over the use of Java APIs. A federal court sided with Oracle on the issue. 2 years ago, a Northern California judge sided with Google, but again, a federal court disagreed. So now it's headed for the Supreme Court, and signatories to the brief include some heavy hitters, including the creators of Java and JavaScript, as well as the creators of AppleScript, C++, Lotus 123, MS-DOS, Python, Smalltalk, TCP/IP, Unix, and a whole bunch of other platforms, according to an EFF statement. Well, in just a sec, we're going to have some updates for you. But first, I want to tell you how to succeed in life. The way that you do that is you need to hire the right people. That's how you succeed. And ZipRecruiter is one of our sponsors today, and they will help you do that. And the way they do that is that they make it fast, powerful, and easy for you to get your job out there to everywhere where the qualified candidates are. They're not just in one place. They're not in a dozen places. They are in dozens and dozens of different places. And ZipRecruiter will send your job out to all of them, more than 50, including Craigslist, LinkedIn, Twitter, all with a single click. So this includes, of course, social networks. You can find candidates in any city or any industry nationwide. Just post it once and watch the qualified candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. You don't have to juggle emails or calls. You're not going to be flooded with unqualified candidates because ZipRecruiter will quickly screen the candidates for you, weeding out the people who are not really qualified and showing you the most qualified candidates so that you can rate them and hire the right person fast. Find out why ZipRecruiter has been used by more than 250,000 businesses. Right now, our audience can try ZipRecruiter for a free 4-day trial. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And of course, TNT is for Tech News Today. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of this show. Virgin Media's content filtering system experienced a glitch over the weekend, which caused it to block almost every website as if they were all porn sites. Even customers who didn't opt into Virgin's web-safe filtering service apparently had their traffic routing through it anyway, and all that traffic apparently caused a bottleneck. In other words, the glitch caused Virgin's porn filter to launch a denial-of-service attack against itself. Virgin Media's web-safe system went live in February. Whoops. Apple released a tool for...
That stinks.
Yeah, it's not good. Apple released a tool for switching from an iPhone to from an iPhone to an Android or any other kind of phone. It instantly deregisters your phone number from Apple's iMessage system. This is great because the tool is designed to solve a long-standing problem whereby iPhone users who switched to Android would stop getting text messages because Apple would continue to route their messages to their no longer in use iMessage accounts. The site was spotted by a sharp-eyed Reddit user. Well, in other news, we told you a month ago about some guy named Corbin Davenport who got Microsoft Windows 95 running on an Android Wear watch. Well, now he's back, and he's figured out how to run first-generation PlayStation games on an LG G Watch running Android Wear. He did it by figuring out how to run the Android PlayStation emulator EPSXE on Google's wearable operating system. Look at that. The problem with that, Lindsey Turrentine, is that, you know what? Those are tiny little buttons and controls, and we have big, giant fingers.
We do, but I feel like anybody under the age of 12 could figure out how to make this work. I just have a sense they would do it, no matter what.
Yes, but still, we'd like to lionize those brave pioneers who do it first, or at least who make the first YouTube videos about it. Look at that; that is amazing. And what's really interesting about this, of course, is that Android Wear devices are significantly more powerful than the first generation PlayStations were. Amazing.
Well, and look at that; he's doing it. He's actually playing.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yep.
He's doing it with his big thumbs.
Yeah. It can be done, I tell you. You have to be dedicated to it. That's the key. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Raymond Statter on Google+, who watches with a Chromebook, a Nexus 5, and a Nexus 7 all at the same time. That's actually Text News Tonight there on the right. So pretty amazing. It's multitasking right there. Watch all the shows at once. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of your setup or yourself and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it. That is the Tech News Today. Lindsey Turrentine, thank you so much for joining us. And again, congratulations on the launch of your print publication. It's quite a thing, and I hope you have a lot of success with it. You have a guaranteed paid circ of about 200K, and hopefully that'll go up, and you'll introduce a whole lot of people in different retail stores to the wonder and the magic of technology news.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you next Monday. Have a great time up there in Northern California, and again, we'll see you next Monday.
Great. See you next week.
All right, well, I want you to subscribe to Tech News Today, and the reason is that it's super convenient and it's very pleasant to always have this show on your phone, your tablet, whatever, wherever you go. Whenever you have a few minutes, you can catch up on the news and become the smartest kid in the class about technology news. Just you can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo. So many ways to subscribe. Just go to twit.tv/TNT and choose your favorite way to subscribe. You can also just follow us on Twitter. Tech News Today TV is our Twitter name. And we want to hear your thoughts and opinions. Send us email to tnt@twit.tv or call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.